There you go. Look at you get to watch it backwards. There we go. H. pylori. Yay. All right, guys. So a functioning digestive system marks the difference between health and imbalance. And it is one of the most critical parts of our client cases and must be a priority. Why? We're interacting today. So unmute. Tell me why. And
Well, if
I
the gut's not healthy, nothing's healthy
why?
because you can't get your correct nutrition for making cells, um, metabolism. It's the physiology of how we were made.
If you guys can't if you can't talk, then you're feel free to hop in the chat and answer too, and I'll monitor that too. So, so yeah, it really is one of those foundational aspects. And it was funny, I was in my call this morning and Norma was in there, she's doing FDN and they're taught that the gut, it doesn't start in the gut. It starts somewhere else, but affects the gut. So I think it's a matter of perspective, right? We talk about the foundations of health, and I think I have that slide in here. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I don't know. Maybe I didn't add it. No, not in this one. But we talk about the foundation of health and um, and how diet and stress and all those things are a part of it. So, we have to think what's affecting the digestion, right? What is going on there? And, you know, I do believe that stress and trauma play a huge role, but what does stress and trauma do to the gut?
It's going to decrease the gastric secretions.
Right. And what happens when we have a environment with low stomach acid?
You're not going to break down your proteins, so you don't get any kind of, chelation with your minerals or
What
limited
happens?
chelation.
And what happens to H. pylori?
Oh, it goes rampant.
It goes rampant, right? I mean, if you have a client, right, and they're eating this perfect diet, but they're under stress, right? And they have a poor digestion, they have low stomach acid, they're not going to digest well. They're not absorbing nutrients. Um, and so, whatever it is, whether they end up with a vitamin deficiency or a nutrient deficiency, um, it's going to affect everything else that happens. And then once you have that, you're discussing, you're discussing their diet, they're eating pretty healthy, but there's just still clear signs of nutrient deficiency. We have to think, what about H. pylori? So what do you guys know about H. pylori?
Sorry, I'm eating. It's common.
It is common.
It's
It
communicable.
says that 70% of people have it, but who are they testing? If everybody's feeling great, are they testing those people for H. pylori?
H. pylori is part of the normal flora in your body,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay. We live, we're fine with it usually, but when it overgrows, it can be nasty and it hides in many forms, including perhaps even yeast cells.
Yep. Yeah, it is just an ingenious little bugger. Um,
Yeah.
H. pylori is short for Helicobacter pylori. It's a bacterium strongly associated with inflammation of the stomach lining, ulcers, increased risk of stomach cancer. H. pylori, I forgot it now. Look at that. H. pylori, I'll fix that. Infections express high urease activity, which generates ammonia. Why did my spell check not get this? Which generates ammonia, neutralizes gastric acidity, and promotes inflammation. Ignore all my typos. Can you tell I was rushing to get this ready for you guys? Um,
Joe, I
yes.
just want to share too that it's not just in humans. There's H. pylori in horses and other animals, and there's also ulcers in horses. So it even goes into veterinary medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it does, like H. pylori, when it's happy, right? When it's not overgrown, when it's in a commensal environment where the stomach acid is keeping it in check, it's happy and it's actually protective. But when it overgrows and gets nasty, that's when we can have issues. Um,
Do we know, Joe, do we know if it's passed? Well, not, it wouldn't be passed really in utero, but is it passed during, delivery? I mean, are you born, can you be born with it or is it something you
I
have?
believe you can be born with it. H. pylori does not stay in the stomach. They found it in the lymph glands,
Okay.
the lymph nodes around the stomach. So we know it doesn't stay. It's indicated in Hashimoto's. So we know it doesn't stay in the stomach. How widespread it is, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it would make sense. And if it's not passed in utero, how much baby kissing are we doing? And how many times are you picking up that baby binky and cleaning it off with your mouth and putting it back in the babies and it's passed through saliva. So um, it's very easy to pass in family members. Very easy. So I do not know if somebody can, finds out um, if it's, just one of those things in utero. I really don't know for sure. Um, I love when I was re-listening to this part with Jen, she called it a badass little bacteria. And it is. It is. So this is, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but this is a picture of the stomach. Um, so when H. pylori, is in the stomach, it can live in all these little tunnels and folds and grooves, right? In the stomach. So, it's very easy. I get the question a lot, like, how can we test for it? How can we know for sure? What, um, what can we do if a client like really wants to know? And I educate my clients that H. pylori is very good at hiding. It can hide in those yeast cells. You will never detect it. It can hide in the stomach lining. It actually can get into the cells in the stomach lining. It will hide inside the mucus layer, and then it will break down the mucus layer and go into those cells. It will go into the lymph nodes outside of the stomach, right? So you won't know for sure, for sure. And a GI map is very accurate, um, but it's not really going to tell you like if it's where it is. So yeah, angry H. pylori never says it's sorry. No, it doesn't. Um, so you really have to go ahead. Who was talking? Me?
It was me. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's kind of like a biopsy almost that you can biopsy a tissue, but if you're not biopsying the right area, you still may not pick up.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Um,
and um people say, "Well, I've had a stomach biopsy and it didn't show up." Well, what if they put the tube down and biopsied here and it was living way over here, right? It was having a party on this end, not up here. Um, or what if it was way up here and they biopsied way down there? They're not going to scrape the entire stomach lining. And if it's hiding um, in a yeast cell or in, the lymph nodes or hiding someplace else, you might not even see it on an antigen blood test, right? Because people say, well, the blood test, if I have antigens, it must be there. Well, I don't think we know all we think we know sometimes. So, um, you're not going to know all the time. So you really need to, and I will share this with you, but I'm going to squeeze all the way down here to the end. I use this H. pylori self-screening tool. And when you get the things, it's actually linked here, but I will put the link in our Telegram group. Um, I ask these questions. If it's not on your health history form and you can't get it from your health history form, I go through. Have you ever been diagnosed with a stomach or intestinal ulcer? Do you have family members who have a history? Is there a history of stomach cancer in your family? Have you been diagnosed with anemia or B12 deficiency? Have you ever been admitted to the hospital with chest pains? Thought you were having a heart attack, but were cleared. Do you have frequent pain or burning in your upper abdominal area or chest area? Do you have acid reflux? And on and on and on, right? Do you feel nauseous? Um, are there dark specks of grains when you vomit? Do you feel like you have a lump in your throat? Do you experience belching and burping? Do you feel bloated? Do you have constipation or diarrhea? Does your digestive systems worsen at night? Do they have a very low, they get full really fast? All these things that we know can be signs that they have H. pylori outside of a test. And there's a section in here that talks about like how do you look at blood work and tell if there's H. pylori present. So, we really, have to look at things and, if there's some of those conditions, if there's immune dysregulation, if there's hormone imbalance, oxidative stress, anxiety, if they already have like a different bacterial imbalance, if they have HPA dysfunction, these can all be, right? All those things on that slide, right? That the Foundations of Health slide, all could be caused by an H. pylori overgrowth and low stomach acid, right? So you need to know, and then all those things cause additional stress, right? Which then suppress stomach acid further, which then exacerbates the problem. So it's going to circle around and create more stress and more problems if you don't address it.
Would it show up in your lab work affecting your CBC, your diff, or
It
your,
very well could, yes.
so would it
Yeah,
show
and we're
up
going
as,
to kind of go into that,
okay,
not on
okay.
this call, but future call, we're going to go into that. Um, and I'm going to have to hop off a little bit soon today because I have to get to Buffalo for a dentist appointment for my kids. So, um, I don't know if we're going to go the full 2 hours today. Anyway, but I we've talked about it hiding in the lymph nodes. They can live in the stomach lining and they travel. They did some studies we talked about that they live inside the vacuoles, inside yeast. So that's kind of cool. And he can, he doesn't live in other places in the body, but he can hide in those pockets of yeast and he can hide in the lymphatic system. So you can take masticum all day long and you're not going to get to him. So, you know, we talked about the different testing. Just kind of going through my notes here. So we can look at symptoms, and there's a gazillion studies. I'm not kidding. Like H. pylori is so highly studied. Um, you can look at it. So it's that significant, but doctors don't want to admit that it's an issue a lot of times, right? Um, there's no concern for stomach acid. There's no concern for H. pylori, really. Um, Doctors believe that you can just pop PPIs and be fine forever. And we know that's not true, right? Um, and sometimes they are the instigator in other infections, right? I mean, if the immune system is so busy doing one thing, how and trying to keep this one under control or whatever. We've talked about that, right? The body has limited resources.
Can you tell me real quick because I don't really know how mastic gum completely works, but why would mastic gum not work if it was in yeast?
Mastic gum's kind of sticky, and in the H. pylori protocol that is written out,
Right.
um, and there's several studies on mastic gum and how it works. But if it's in the yeast, it may not, the mastic gum's not going to be effective against the yeast. So you're going to have to do something to get to the yeast to get to the H. pylori.
Okay.
So it's going to be like a double layer.
So the
Uh,
yeast basically protects the
mhm.
exposure of the,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
And they're not going to go down on their own. So, if you're on a PPI and you go off a PPI and you have an H. pylori overgrowth, they're not just going to naturally go back down. You're going to have to do something to
Like a
reduce the
buster or
population.
something like that, like a biofilm buster?
Um, yeah, biofilm buster, or just, I mean, you're going to have to, um, let's say it's not in the yeast. Let's just say it's having a party in the stomach because your client's been on a PPI forever. So they have naturally low stomach acid, right? Which is causing the H. pylori to proliferate, right? H. pylori is creating a lot of urease, which is then further depressing stomach acid. So now they go off the PPI. The stomach tries to make more stomach acid. What happens?
The H. pylori,
Right.
explodes.
Yeah. So, they're going to be there. They're going to reduce the stomach acid again, and you are going to have to do that. Um, so, in the inside of the stomach lining, you have this mucus layer, right? And all the folds of the stomach. Um, and the H. pylori is actually going to be able to degrade that and get in here and live inside of here, and it can get into the lymph through here. It's only one cell, right? And that's when the mucus layer is gone, and then the H. pylori is affecting this, and you get those bleeding ulcers, right? So,
Yes. And the gastritis.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and all that inflammation that's going to be happening in here, and you're supposed to be, um,
And
you
I
know,
guess it's that degrades it more. Well, it's not in the small intestines. You're not really going to get malabsorption. You're just going to get maldigestion more, right?
yeah, this is in the stomach.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it looks like a villi, but um, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's the
Right.
same thing in the stomach. You've got the layers and
Enterocytes.
mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't have my clients do GI maps and pay $300 to $400 to get a full GI map to find out if they have H. pylori. I'd rather put them on an H. pylori protocol, um, which is food, right? Mastic gum, Brocomax, borage oil. I mean, it's all things that in different cultures we just consume. There's places in the world that just chew mastic gum. Um, so I would rather have them spend the money doing that, and then at least right? You've done something to eradicate. Um, so let me see if I can stop sharing this quick because I want to show you guys that video. Let me, oh, I looked everywhere for it and couldn't find it. So let me believe. No, that's not it. I looked it was UC Davis Health that had it, but I'll be danged if I can actually find it on YouTube. But there's that. Didn't find it on our Meet group either, so let me. Nope, that's our Telegram group. All right, I gotta find the window again, guys, because, you know. Do you guys have any questions while I get this video queued up? Ah, got it. Ta-da! Found it. This isn't going to be, let me see. Share this screen. All right, let me know if for whatever reason you guys aren't like hearing this. Let me see.
Okay, so this is the surface of the stomach. And these are little grabby things like receptors. Adhesion proteins. Okay. So I want you to see what happens to the little H.
Can you expand your screen?
Float in. And
No, unfortunately, this is expanded.
they grab on to these little receptors. And that's how they hold on to their spot on the surface of the stomach. Now, when that slops off, right, when the cell dies and it's leaving, there they go. They let go. This is how they just keep working and working and working. So that gives you an idea. And this video is in the resources.
Yep, couldn't find it. That was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty neat that, you know, to give you guys a little bit of a visual of how that works because, you know, everybody kind of thinks that they're hanging out and, you know, all over the place, and they're not. They're hanging out on the surface of the stomach lining, right?
So did I understand it, Joel, that they get in there and they grab onto a receptor? And when she said the cell
Yeah.
dies, I'm assuming that's the receptor.
The one
The H.
cell,
pylori
right.
still just
Yeah.
hangs around.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, when the cell that they're attached to dies. So when you, let me pull my other screen back up again here. Let me get out of this one.
So then they just pick another receptor to attach to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, they're nasty buggers.
Yeah.
They are parasites. Yeah.
So let me go back to presenting on that one. Present full screen. There we go. And I'll go back to
Yep.
sharing this. So, you
So
know,
how do they stay undetected from like an antibiotic? I mean, if they're attached to the receptor, they're still exposed, right? Don't they
right.
go into this? They don't enter into the cell.
No, they're in here. I wish I could expand this a little bit. They're right in here in between the mucus
Okay.
layer on the top of the, you know, right here. There's adhesion proteins right in here
Okay, so
on top
they're
of
like
the
in the
cell.
inner membrane.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, they're attached on top of the membrane here. And when this cell dies and gets replaced and sloughs off, right? Just like skin cells slough off, your stomach lining sloughs off. When that happens, right? And they're creating, you know, they can get right in here. And when this cell dies, they hop off that train and hop onto another one
Mhm.
and
So in the
survive.
process,
And I will put in the chat because there is a
are they replicating along with all of this too, Joe?
my screen sharing is paused. There is a, yeah, I mean, they're doing their thing. They want to go ahead and share. Stop. How do I continue sharing? share.
Do we have any idea what the lifespan of a H.
You know, I
pylori?
don't.
Hmm.
I'm sure it's in one of our articles.
Mhm.
All right, my screen sharing is paused, and I cannot, for the life of me, find the one I just had. Screen sharing again, but I have another window. Just open up another window, maybe. No? Oh.
I have to read up on H. pylori more, but I'm wondering, they were just found in the last few decades. I'm wondering if they've been around since creation.
Yeah, it is one of those things. Let me bring that back over there, present that again. Oh my goodness. I will get better at this, guys, I promise. I'm going to stop sharing that one again and share this one. I wanted to share with you the study. So it's called The Adaptation of H. pylori, and this is the one that this um, Gianna Anatoli Bugatsiova, who that video was from. But command copy and open up my chat. This is the study that goes with that video.
Is this something from YouTube? Or it's just a study she did, an article?
So this is the adaptation of H. pylori to chronic infection and gastric disease by pH responsive BABA mediated adherence. So it's how the H. pylori survives in that highly acidic environment
Oh, okay.
by attaching to the lining. So it is a whole, the adhesion molecule mediates high affinity binding of H. pylori to the ABO blood group antigen glycosated gastric mucosa. Here we show that BAB-A is acid responsive, but binding is restored by pH neutralization.
So if you give somebody, but if you gave somebody, say, betaine, it would reestablish your pH balance, but the H. pylori would go crazy.
Right. Right. That's why I've stopped doing stomach acid trials before doing an H. pylori protocol. Because what if they have one, which we've already determined that 70% of the people, right, have H. pylori. We have no way of telling how angry those buggers are or not, right? The tests are notoriously unreliable. So we could be giving people stomach acid and pissing them off and creating more problems. And I don't know about you, but I am fully on board with the first do no harm. And if there's a chance that I'm going to be pissing off some H. pylori and they're on the verge, right, of having some serious, they've got low mucosal lining, they've got some serious, they're right on the edge of having gastritis or an ulcer or something, the last thing I want to do is piss these guys off. So I always start by knocking down the possibility of an overgrowth. We're not going to eradicate H. pylori. It's not going to happen, but you can keep it, within a safe boundary. And you can do H. pyloris forever, but if you don't find out why, right? What's the stress? What's the trauma? What's the dehydration? What nutrients aren't they making? Are they on a low salt diet? Like, why do they have low stomach acid causing an H. pylori overgrowth? Why? And if you don't fix it, they'll just be doing H. pylori protocols their whole life to keep it knocked down because it'll just keep popping up.
But what about the factor of just age? If you've got somebody who's really elderly, let's say in their late 80s or 90s, so they almost have no stomach acid being produced, and they've had a history of H. pylori,
I
how,
have my clients that have
how
that
do you treat that?
situation
Yes.
do H. pylori protocols, almost like you would have them do like a seasonal cleanse or a yearly
Okay.
whatever. I'm like, you know what? You've got to learn your body. You've got to get them to the place where they know how it feels to have better digestion, to be able to digest a bigger meal, to not be eating like a bird, right? I mean, all those things happen as people age, right? For a reason. So if you can get it to the point where you've done a good job, they've knocked down their H. pylori, now you've got them ramped up and they're feeling great on 1, 2, 3 capsules of stomach acid with a meal, all of a sudden, you know, they start maybe not feeling so great again. H. pylori, have them do it again. Have it be like, this is what I do right before the holidays, right? This is my fall cleanse routine. Kids go back to school, I do an H. pylori. Kids get out of school, I do H. pylori eradication, right? I mean, it's really not that hard. Or you can have them on do the L-Reuteri probiotic. Maybe they don't need a full whatever. Maybe going and having a bottle of Pylogard around and doing that on weekends is enough to keep it down. There are more than one ways to deal with H. pylori.
Right. You mean like the Pylogard, like on a regular basis, maybe
Yeah,
every,
yeah.
yeah,
Have them take it on weekends.
that's great.
I mean, it's what are they willing to do, right? And are they at the point where I mean, if they're feeling better, right? When their stomach is working better, then, that's not a hard ask to pop that open in some water or to get the BioGaia and put a few drops of that and do a thing of BioGaia.
Mhm.
Deb is here.
Joe,
Mm-hmm.
who again, what company is Pylogard and what company is
Pylogard is from
Right.
Microbiome
Even though
Lab.
that whenever they dress code someone, they get no punishment or anything for it. So we never even knew what really was the dress.
I don't know who was talking to Deb. So.
So
Um,
Pylogard is microbiome and who's
yes.
BioGaia?
And BioGaia makes the BioGaia Infantis infant drops, or even they've got chewable tablets. Most of the BioGaia is L-Reuteri. Um, oh, hang on, let me just grab
Oh,
it.
you had that slide on a couple times ago. That's great.
Like I have BioGaia. No, that's L-Fermentum. Oh, here it is. I'm like, I
Is
know it's right here. DSM 17938. So this is it.
Mhm.
Um,
thanks.
and literally they give you these little 2 ml samples. That's what this is. If you call them up and tell them that you're a practitioner, they'll give you these samples. It's 5 drops is 100 million CFUs. And it's super, super easy then. They can drop it anywhere, like on their tongue. They can put it in a drink. They can, for the H. pylori protocol, you put it on a little square of gluten-free something. Um,
It's pretty potent. That's a lot of
yes,
CFU, so okay,
yes, in 5 drops.
right.
So, I mean, to have them, and this is much more cost effective than the Pylogard.
Right. It's kind of pricey.
Yeah. So, an open tube needs to be used within 3 months. So once they have it and open it, it needs to be used up. That's why they have the tablets too. But you want to get the DSM 17938 is the strain of L-Reuteri that you're looking for. And I'm
That's
sure it's in other.
Is that the same strain in Pylogard?
Yes.
Okay, Right.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Um, so yeah, the study that I put in the chat, yeah, taking my daughter to the another eye doctor appointment, back and forth. Yes. So this is Pylogard is easy. This is, I feel like this one's even easier because it's literally just drops. You don't have to open a capsule. You know, sometimes for people it's hard. They don't like opening the capsule and putting it in water. So this is literally liquid and is just a drop or a chewable tablet. Those are the two forms the BioGaia comes in, and it's available on Amazon. And Deb, I'm sure you could get it in your pharmacy stocked. They have a great sample program. So it works pretty well.
And Joel, how do these two products compare to doing like the mastic gum, Max, and
So
bora's
that
oil?
second protocol that we have uses the BioGaia drops and Zeobind with NAC. Um, so that's the other,
Okay,
it's the
perfect.
second
Thank you.
pylori protocol that Jen shared with us.
Okay, I gotta go back and
And
review that. Thank you.
yeah, and um, Microbiome Labs has another couple companion products that you can use for H. pylori. Cellcore has a protocol for H. pylori. I mean, every school, every whatever has their own little thing that you can use. I mean, when I was a baby health coach, got rid of H. pylori with black seed oil. Guy went to the doctor, was on, I think he had been on 4 rounds of triple antibiotic therapy and it just kept coming back. And then we gave him high dose black seed oil and it went away. This is before I even knew anything about gut health. I mean, I just knew what I knew from IIN. I literally Googled it and it was one of the things. I said, here's 10 things you can try. And then I ordered him some black seed oil and he was like, so thrilled. So, I mean, there's other ways of doing it, but these are the tried and true ones. So how do we get H. pylori? We talked about it. I mean, it is just one of those things that's pretty much endemic. It's transferred toothbrushes, saliva, you know, all the things. So, and 70% of people have tested for it. So it's a commensal, right? I mean, it's naturally occurring. People have it. Um, it's protective in low amounts. So, you know, we don't have to keep thinking about like all the different ways. It is. All right. Let me get back to my tab with my notes. Um, uh, so H. pylori want to be protected. So from the stomach acid, they don't like being in a high acidic environment. So they're going to put out the urease. They're going to put out the mucin to break down the mucus, and they're going to get down there like we saw in the video and attach themselves. Um, you know, so if you have a lot of H. pylori living in a spot, you're going to lose that mucosal protection. And that's when it can get dangerous, right? That's when you can get the gastritis. That's when you get the ulcers. Um, Jen called it like their little beach. They're hanging out on the little adhesion molecules, like they're sitting in little beach chairs. They're happy. Um, if they can keep the stomach acid down, they can come out, they can play, they can do whatever they want, they can go wherever they want. So that's why we're giving them the different powders. Hey guys, I have This is my insurance company. I have to take the call because um, I crunched my brand new car. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna mute. Hey, sorry about that, guys. I could not ignore the call from my car. So
No
Is
problem.
it bad? Is it bad?
no, I was leaving the theater on Friday night, and it was it was like 8 degrees here. So the entire inside of my windshield had gotten frosted over, and we'd been waiting and waiting and waiting, and we were meeting people after the show at the restaurant, and we had to stop home first, and my husband had already left because his car didn't frost over like mine. Um, and there was another car facing me with their brights on. So I had pulled in the opposite way I normally do to the end parking spot that's like my spot. And I had like the halo around my windshield was still frosty, and I'm looking at this car that's literally blinding me. I swear they had their brights on, or they had those silly LED headlights. I don't know what it was, but all I could think of it was I was on the end of the aisle, um, and I all I could think of was I need to go left and get out of these headlights so I can see where the hell I'm going, so I don't hit anything. And I drove right into the pylon.
Oh, bless your heart.
Oh, no.
It was just like I heard the crunch, and I was just like, "That's not good." And then I like backed it up, went forward, then went left and got out of there, and yeah, did about $3,800 in damage to my brand new.
Ouch, ouch,
Yeah,
ouch.
it's very ouchy. I'm not
I
happy.
did that in the parking ramp. I hit the pylon turning too soon after
Yeah.
getting the ticket. So bless your heart. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, it's okay. My husband was very upset about it, but I was like, it is what it is. It happens. It's, you know. But these cars are plastic. Like, literally, like all the tabs are plastic, everything's plastic, and
So
so
good.
it just, you
They're
know.
meant to just go crunch.
They are meant to just go crunch, which is fine. I don't think I hit any sensors, but they have to check that out too. So who knows what this little teeny tiny thing is going to cost me. Well, it's going to cost me $500 because that's my deductible, but
Car plastic is so much more expensive than any other plastic.
it's just all the tabs holding the fender did it. It got my washer fluid tank, so I have no windshield washer fluid. So hopefully today it's not crappy, or I'm going to be like, spraying water on my windshield to be able to see. It'll be interesting. Anyway, let's keep going. So when when we're working with clients to try and get rid of the H. pylori overgrowth, the masticum and the broccoli sprout powder, right? Broccoli sprout powder contains sulfur, and the sulforaphane in them is going to kill them, but they're sneaky, right? So here comes the broccoli sprout powder, and it's going to try and fool the H. pylori, but you've got to have all the pieces together. Um, so the mastic gum is going to take a little bit longer to break down in the stomach, and then the Broco sprout powder is going to break down first, and then the mastic gum, and when it breaks down, it's going to start killing them. So it's quick, it's painless, it's how we're going to reduce the bacteria. And then if that person that was taking, 7, 8, 9 HCLs beforehand, and we've, you know, pissed them off, you can start again, and they're going to be able to take less. And if they can't take less, then they had a massive overgrowth and you're going to have to repeat it again. So it's not guaranteed, right? And this is where you have to have the feedback and you have to explain to the client, like, this is going to be a trial and error thing. But each time they do this, masticum, Broco sprout powder, the borage oil have other health benefits, right? So you could do 3 rounds of H. pylori treatment for the cost of a GI map. And each time they're going to get better.
Is this kind of like definitive in your diagnosis is not a good word, but in your
Right.
right in your I mean in your assessment that you think they have H. pylori. So if you've got them on a lot of I'm thinking of a particular client and she's on a lot of betaine. She's not symptomatic at all other than acne. I mean, we're trying to deal with this whole acne thing and we've ruled out a lot of other issues. And I'm like, okay, I kind of suspect she has H. pylori, but I've not put her on a protocol. And so
How much betaine is she taking?
she takes 5 to 6 every meal.
I mean, if I have anyone that's taking over 3, I'm suspecting that there's some H. pylori overgrowth. What do the rest of you guys think? What's your sense, Kristen?
Well, I would think when anybody's taking that seems to be not an exorbitant amount, but just a real high dose, it's kind of like I'm always less is more to me. So I get a little suspicious what could be going on there.
Yep.
Like the people that take 7 and 8 HCl, it's kind of like, oh my God, that just hurts talking about it.
Right. And 5 or 6, I mean, it's getting up there. I mean, has she tried to increase, Lee?
Well, yes, when she got to 7, she had discomfort.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, so if I say, okay, let's try you on this protocol, which won't hurt you anyway, so let's just try it and see. And she comes back, and I guess you do, and I haven't looked real closely at the protocol to know how long. I guess about a month you do
It's a
it.
30-day protocol. If
30
you're
day,
going to
okay.
do if you're going to do masticum, the Broco sprouts, Broco Max, and the borage oil.
And so when I go, so after a month, so I would assume does she stop taking all of the HCl? I mean, all the betaine while she's
Yeah,
doing this, or
I
does she
would.
continue to do? Okay.
Yep, I would. And then I would put her on this protocol.
Right. And then when
The borage oil is going to be really good for balancing hormones.
okay.
Okay, it's going to have that added benefit.
Right,
It's
right,
great
you
for
guys,
skin and hair health.
yeah.
Like if she does the liquid one, it actually says on there, it's a beauty product. The
Yes,
Nordic Naturals borage oil is a beauty product, and she would do half a teaspoon in the AM and half in the PM. Broco sprout is a great antioxidant on top of being able to, eradicate the H. pylori, and masticum is going to be super soothing to her gut lining.
right.
Right. So they already do double duty.
That's true.
So
Okay.
and she's only going to have to go off for 3 weeks, because on week 3, you start adding in digestive support.
Okay.
So,
So she's already on digestive support. Would you just continue that? Like enzymes?
my clients aren't usually on it beforehand. So I just do that because I want to know, once we fix the stomach, right? And then we start adding it back in where they're at.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, if this is the stomach, right? And this is the pyloric sphincter, right? So the
Right.
stomach would be here, but you're not seeing it because it's cut out.
Mhm.
It goes through the sphincter. It gets into the duodenum, which is the top of the small intestine. Down here, right? So now the chyme comes out and your body's sensing like how acidic is this stuff, right?
Right.
And it's going to then right here is going to mix with the bile, which is this green tube, right? And then which is the common bile duct, and this one, which is the pancreatic duct of Wirsung or whatever, right? And they join together and empty out right here where this arrow is, in this little hole. And that's where the bile and enzymes then get mixed in the small intestine.
Right.
So when we're adding stuff into the stomach, right? I always have my clients, what happens, and we're going to go through like the whole gut, because I don't know how many of you remember your anatomy and physiology classes. But there's a whole thing here that where we kind of walk through all the different parts of the digestive system. But when the chyme comes out of the stomach, right, it's going to mix with bile and enzymes, right? So the bile and enzymes are here before the food hits it. So I always have my clients take some digestion GB first. So they have a little bit of bile support and a little bit of enzyme support, right? Before their meal. So that passes through the stomach and it's here waiting for the food then. And then the food goes in and then the HCl is sandwiched in just like a regular HCl protocol.
Now, don't those enzymes, doesn't the pH have to be alkaline enough
Mhm.
to create to trigger the release of the pancreatic and the digestive enzymes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when the stomach, when this chyme comes out and the stomach, the duodenum senses how acidic this is, then it's going to release the bicarb and the enzymes and the bile, which are
To
all
make it
alkaline and neutralize that
raise the pH. Okay.
and raise the pH. Right. So when the acidic chyme comes out, if it's not so acidic, you're not going to get as much of this, released here.
Right.
These digestive juices are going to be less. So that's why when I work with clients, I'm like, we have to fix whatever's going on upstream, right? Because if you don't have acidic chyme, the rest of your digestive system is broken. You're missing that domino, right? That's going to hit and make the next step happen, and it's dependent on that pH. So if it's not acidic enough, you're not releasing as many enzymes. You're not releasing as much bile.
Right.
I'm
Just
so
part
glad
right
you've been.
on the digestive enzyme. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I'm so glad you're going to review physiology because I don't care how many years you've known and reviewed it. A review is always good. And I have a question, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned with the protocol with the borage oil, mastic gum, and Brocomax, which capsules do you recommend opening and do you absolutely have to?
Yes, Brocomax has to get opened
Okay.
because it's in a time release and you don't want it time released. You want
Okay.
it active right then and there. Like it
Okay.
needs to be open. And you definitely don't need it time released. The fact that they did that to that capsule is not cool. But it is the most cost-effective way to do it, and most people don't have a problem busting it open and just taking it.
It doesn't taste bad.
And the borage oil by Nordic Naturals, are the capsules, the gel caps okay, or do you want that in the actual oil?
Now brand makes the gel caps. You're actually getting more, I believe, in the gel cap. But once again, sometimes the gel caps are harder to digest for people. If they're really, really
Right.
struggling and let's say you did it once and it didn't work, right? Then I would suggest maybe if you're going to do the pill route again, going with the liquid borage oil because, maybe they don't have enough stomach acid to break those capsules down in enough time to do the job before they eat.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Right? So, I mean, just think about what you're trying to accomplish think about how effective it was. And if it failed the first time, either switch up to a different one. But a lot of people don't like the other one because you have to limit the amount of meat you eat, and you have to, it's 5 days of NAC, and it's the drops, and it's, and it's that whole thing in the morning where you're taking the zeolite and waiting, and then taking the probiotic and then waiting, and then taking, and it's more complicated. So it's much easier to pop 5 pills in the morning and boom, to your day, right? And eat whenever you eat,
Right.
you know?
Where did Joe, the um black seed oil? Um, I use that a lot with when I was still working and doing COVID. But
Mhm. Yeah.
where do you get the dosage, high dose protocol for that for H.
I
pylori?
literally, it was over a decade ago, and I just had him take, I bought the highest dose he could, and he took it 3 or 4 times a day.
Super, thanks.
I mean, that was it. It was just, we took however many milligrams, and he took it multiple times a day, and then just kept taking bottles of it until he felt better. I mean, it was really not very technical or anything. It was, I mean, literally, it was just, a blog. Here's, 10 natural things you can do to eradicate H. pylori. And it was like number one. He goes, I'll do that one. I'm like, okay. Just where do I
That's so
get it?
interesting. I
Yeah.
know the FLCCC, the Frontline Critical Care COVID,
Hmm.
said use if you cannot get a hold of ivermectin, use the black seed oil, and
Yeah.
they had a lot of success with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I had that, and I had andrographis on hand, um, you know, because I was using the Yannick, um, oh, what's the other girl doctor's name? There were 3 doctors that got together, and it's listed in the Cogents site. And that was, we used that. So, so, you know, when, when we're doing this protocol, we have no idea. I mean, we have to kind of be in communication with our clients and ask them how they're feeling, what their symptoms are. And they may not feel anything, right? I mean, they may not notice a difference, but it's not doing nothing. And this is where the education piece is so important. My clients always want to, well, what am I going to feel? I'm like, oh no. Most clients don't notice anything, right? They might feel a little bit better, right? For one reason or another. It might not have anything to do with digestion at all. They might go, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. I just feel my mood's better. Or, um, you know, my pain in my hands aren't as achy, or whatever it is, right? You have no idea what they're going to feel or not feel, right? And I dislike telling them something like, I just want you to report how you feel. I have clients tell me wildly different things. I cannot predict what you're going to feel like, but just pay attention, right? Be aware when you're doing these things, right? And I tell people, a lot of my clients may not feel any different, but we notice it when we add in the enzymes and the things, right? So Lee, your client might not feel any different, right?
Right.
But in 3 weeks, when she goes to add stuff back in, she might only get up to 2 or 3
Mhm.
HCl before she feels something, right?
Which
She's not going to be able to do 5 or 6 anymore.
which for me would be definitive that she probably did have H. pylori
Right.
overgrowth.
Well, and then you need to, explain all the different ways. Give her a handout, make a handout. I mean, the best way that I learn things is by teaching, right? So making a handout, making a little, 6 slide video of, this is what H. pylori can do to the body, right? This is what happens. This is, these are the symptoms. These are, the things that it causes. Therefore, we're going to do this first. And then afterwards, we're going to prime the pump. That's what I call it. We're priming the pump, right? Your body has had suppressed digestive secretions for however long, for one reason or another, right? And if this works, it's because you had an H. pylori overgrowth. And when you get rid of that, the stomach's going to be able to then increase that. But I mean, you still have to make sure they're getting good electrolytes, make sure they're having salt intake, make sure they're hydrated, right? Because the stomach is not going to make HCl without H, which comes from water, right? And Cl, which comes from salt, right? Sodium chloride, salt, H2O,
Yeah.
H, right? So they have to be drinking water and having electrolytes to make good stomach acid. It just has to happen.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
You're welcome. Um, and you have to make sure that they're not stressed again, right? If they're all stressing about, oh my God, I don't know, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Right? If you have those clients that are super high strung, you can do all this work, but until you handle the stress, right? Until you get them into a place, right? That's where your work is finding their healing environment with all the tools you have at your disposal. Um, so until they have that healing environment, they're not going to get better. Um, so the other thing that can happen a lot is giardia. So this is the other thing that is going to be really hard. If you see it on a GI map, it's definitely there. They're not going to know, but it lives right here. That's what this slide is for, actually, because Giardia loves bile, um, and it lives right here in this area because when the bile, it's going to feed on that bile that comes out. Or if your client's not getting a lot of bile, it's because Giardia has moved up into here. Um, so that was just a
And
little.
you can have giardia without diarrhea symptoms.
I guess it's possible.
Interesting.
I mean, since
You
it
know,
lives on bile, since it basically loves bile, bile's really going to create diarrhea. I mean, excessive bile.
mm-hmm. Right, but they're going to get up in here and line that hallway, right? And whatever, you're not going to get a lot of bile if you have a huge giardia overgrowth. It's going to, so, if you've got some bile congestion and things going on, you're going to have to do that. So,
So
it's
would
gonna,
but would Giardia then consume the bile, and so it would not then be available for digestion,
um,
or does it
I mean, it likes it, so it's
metabolize?
going to, it's gonna be all in here, and it can clog up bile secretion. Yes.
So
Um,
it can decrease your digestion or the benefits
mhm,
of bile to your digestion.
right.
Okay, interesting.
I wasn't familiar with giardia until years ago when I was a vet tech and then got a pup that had bad diarrhea. And that giardia, they are the cutest little buggers under the microscope. They look like little aliens. Once you see one, anybody could recognize it. You
Yeah,
wouldn't have to be a microbiologist.
that's interesting. Um, so, if you're gonna have to get the gallbladder unstuck, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that, right? So, I mean, we've talked about thinning the bile with D-limonene, but you can use beetroot powder, you can use sunflower lecithin, um, but you're gonna have to unstick that if that's part of the problem. And we can go into gallbladder stuff at another date. We don't really have time to do that today. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think working on H. pylori with your clients, I don't know about you,